Hey everybody, just wanted to say hey, come on back and talk about knee pain. The title is gone now, but I think I said something about knee pain being kind of a garbage pail term. And it is, from a PT's perspective in the medical field, we get that diagnosis all the time. And it'll just say knee pain. And I'm kind of thinking, really, is that all you can offer? But it's neither here nor there. Doesn't matter, because I look at it and I come up with a pretty good sound functional diagnosis anyhow, most of the time. Anyway, so title and why does it happen in girls? What generally when we talk about knee pain, there are a lot of structures that can be involved in knee pain. But I had a question asked by a guy up in the Northeast, cross-country coach, and he asked me about why does knee pain happen to come up in girls maybe more often than the boys. The boys end up with other stuff like shin splints and other stuff. So I thought for a minute and a couple days, and in both cases it has to do with just young athletes developing, and it happens to the knee pain happens to come up on the girls more often, and it's just you have a ton of cycles that you go through, right, when you're starting to run first time and maybe ever, or you certainly probably started increasing your mileage if you're doing it a little bit in junior high. So now you're getting taller and you're developing, and the levers are just harder to control. The muscles can't do a fantastic job at it just yet. And so the knee is kind of in the middle of your hip and your foot. Your foot has 26 bones, tends to be this mobile platform, and your hip, ball and socket, can go all over the place. And your knee kind of mostly just wants to bend and straighten, so it's caught in two different areas that are fairly mobile. If neither one of them are really very assist with the control of the knee, or just very hard because all of a sudden they're dealing with these long levers that have been getting longer, fairly rapidly over the last maybe couple of years or whatever. The knee's caught in the middle and it gets the hit. So when it comes to knee pain for girls, I'm going to try to narrow it down to maybe two of the structures that I'm thinking maybe most of the issue, or at least maybe often enough, and I could be wrong, but these are the things that come to mind. Anyhow, let's see, I just want to say hey to Bob and Graham and Raymond and Charity. Cool. Glad to have you guys on. Sometimes I think I'm speaking to the wind, so it's kind of nice to see that. Anyway, so let me back up just a little bit, maybe get my whole foot in there, take off my shoe or whatever. No, I'm going to I'll take off both shoes. So generally what occurs with guys versus girls a little bit more is that the shock absorption is kind of halted in girls more than boys. The girls are kind of stopped short, and their knees won't bend a lot to absorb shock in general when they jump from maybe a box. And I think this might be more of a habit of the girls. The guys will tend to absorb the shock a little bit more. They'll tend to bend the knees, hips, dorsiflex a little bit more to absorb it over time. So at one point it doesn't just take the whole impulse. So girls on videos generally, hit my head on the roof here, but we kind of stop short, right? And it just drives the patella into the femur. And so that's a habit, not that they're jumping, but from stride to stride, they're kind of jumping. And if this is kind of a tendency for girls, there can be a little bit firm impulse of the kneecap into the femur, as the the kneecap's trying to slide and glide up and down. Guys or boys tend to just kind of absorb the shock over more time, over more distance, and so it's not that big of a deal. So there might be one reason with cycle after cycle after cycle that the girls end up maybe getting knee pain a little bit more. Not that they're jumping like that, but cycle after cycle they may not have as much knee flexion. Now another thing, if they're weaker in the hips and the pelvis starts to get broader maybe a little bit, the knee tends to kind of sway in just a little bit more. Possibly. This is my mindset about it. And so what ends up happening is that as that knee kind of goes in just a little bit, the patella, the kneecap, the joint surface on the inside, as that happens, and it's not that it's a ton, but just maybe, fractions of an inch or so, but you can imagine tens of thousands of cycles. If that's not controlled and it tends to kind of go in maybe a little bit more, that patella, that kneecap gets driven into the femur maybe just a smidge more than it would otherwise as it's going up and down inside the groove, and it ends up irritating possibly the cartilage underneath the femur, particularly on one side, the outside of the patella. The whole patella in the groove isn't absorbing the shock completely as well on both sides. As you go in, the kneecap, the cartilage underneath tends to be a little bit more irritated on the lateral edge, maybe just a little bit. Anyways, that's what I find. For girls, they may have a little bit weaker hips, and maybe the foot doesn't control as much either. Maybe it does. Maybe it's just the hip issue, and they just tend to go in a little bit. Not only do they go in, but they probably stop short just a little bit more in their stride, because that's kind of what they habitually do, or not habitually, but what studies suggest that they just tend to stop short when they try to absorb shock. So that could be, number one, they stop short. Number two, the hip may not be quite as strong as it needs to slow that puppy down from going inside. Not that it's a ton, but at least a little bit. Anyway, so they might have is this anterior knee pain, patellofemoral. And sometimes what that ends up doing too, even for some veteran runners, if they started increasing their mileage, or they, for too many months ran in old shoes, and it didn't quite do a fantastic job at controlling the foot, even though their hip was doing pretty good, when you turn in just a little bit, your MCL on the inside of your knee gets a little bit more taut. It gets a little bit more chronically kind of over time. It's kind of towards end range and resisting any more. The more you do that, if you kind of put your thumb or finger on the inside of your knee, there's mine, and I turn it in, I can feel that sucker get really tight this way, and right here, it's a whole lot more loose. Inside pretty tight, outside a whole lot more loose. So if it's towards end range, just a smidge more, not that it's, it's just not quite perfect, but if it's going inside a little bit more, particularly the young kids that are weak, that MCL on the inside can get maybe chronically irritated. It doesn't go on and on about a number of different structures. Maybe the foot's flat too, and it's not, or it's not being a very firm kind of a platform. And then we get into different types of shoes and stride frequency and initial contact, kind of posture of the foot and all that. I don't want to get into all that. It gets a little bit too much. But to kind of hone it down to maybe why high school girls end up having a little bit more knee pain, I think those three kind of might end up being most of the issue. Strength of the hip, long lever to deal with at the knee because it's so far away from the hip all of a sudden because they're growing all of a sudden, and then even farther away from the foot that's trying to help out, but it's just not quite strong enough for helping out as much as it could too, particularly when the distance starts to increase and the intensity starts to increase. But anyhow, hey David, what's up, man? And Jenny, good to see you guys. Michael, Larry, what's up, bro? Hadn't seen you in a long time, man. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Hey, Jason. What's up, man? God bless you too, bro. Anyway, I hope this helps. Running is my wheelhouse. I enjoy it. It's something that I've been, enjoying my whole life. I used to be a sprinter by nature, funny enough, and then I just got addicted to being able to run and not get tired. I got into high school, I was a sprinter, and all of a sudden everybody was smoking fast. I got left in the dust, but anyhow, it's fun. Joe Lopez, bro, good to see you, kiddo, even though you're a lot older now. I guess that's about it. If you guys have any questions or comments about, whatever you're dealing with, or, when it comes to running, give me, just go ahead and maybe say something, or I'm putting a, oh yeah, man, thanks for the info. Cool, awesome, glad to help, Michael. Really, I love getting content out to you guys, because I can just, you can just hit up a lot of people at the same time, and it's just, I don't have to deal with insurance. That's always kind of fun not to have to deal with that. Just get it out to the masses and have a good time with it. So anyway, so I'm kind of in the middle of writing a book. This kind of stuff is going to be on it, as well as some self-assessment, self-treatment kind of stuff to get ahead of injuries and maybe prevent some. Because the healthcare system, man, the way it comes down is that, you don't get to the right person fast enough most of the time. And by the time you see the right person, often enough, it's chronic and it ends up being way too bad. When you're young, pays to be young. You can, deal with it pretty quick and get ahead of it before it, stops your career most of the time, or just the season. I don't know if you guys got any questions. Feel free. Yeah. Hey, Sharon? I want to pronounce that right. I think it's Sharon. Thanks for watching. If you see any value in this, great. I really enjoy it. Go ahead and put something down. Please, by all means. Anything else I can help with, or anything else on your mind about what question could I ask? Please. I want to make sure that it's valuable to you guys out there, and I'm sure if one person has a question, I'm sure there's probably others that have this similar question. So anyhow, thanks again for watching. God bless you guys. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.